first, best, pre-recorded. This is Galaxy Tonight, keeping your galaxy in focus, bringing you news from the extranet that you can trust. And here are your hosts, Caradris McCall and Chip Washington. Hello, I'm Chip Washington.
And I'm Chris Cohen.
And this is Galaxy Tonight, thanks to Major League Wobbs for providing us with the introduction music.
And I'll be filling in for Caradris McCall tonight, who is on holiday back on Earth, but he'll be back with us next week. And we're going to start today with a news roundup from last week's news. Starting off, the Federation have taken 9,000 of their own civilian lives, Chip, in what would become a bit of a shocking news story for everyone.
Absolutely. I'm very surprised that President Halsey has approved any kind of attack on any civilians, whether or not the leader of the CSG was even on any of them. That's too big of a risk for 9,000 lives, I think.
Well, it sent shockwaves through the Federation, really, because there's been a huge amount of criticism leveled at President Halsey for making that decision, and it was her executive decision that caused the strike that led to those refugees losing their lives. Now, they were refugees that were fleeing Lugh 6 in an attempt to get out of the system and out of the conflict zone, Chip.
I agree, and I do believe you are correct in that matter, and it's unfortunate that, again, she did that. And as a federal pilot myself, I am pretty upset about her decision. It's making a lot of our fellow pilots switch sides to even the Imperial forces and whatnot, just leaving altogether. I think she's signing the Federation over to the Galaxy. It's going to be bad, I think, in Congress over the next couple of weeks.
Well, I think that in the grand scheme of things, in the conflict itself, 9,000, although every single life is precious, 9,000 is a very small number when compared to the number of combatants that have been killed. But what makes it such a significant event in the grand scheme of the war?
Well, it's 9,000 civilian lives. The fact that pilots and soldiers signed their lives away, they know they might come home in a box, or in the scraps of their ships, but civilians have no such obligations, and making such a sacrifice for just to get out of the danger is very unfortunate that they had to go through that, and I'm not sure what's going to happen to President Halsey. I think there was a letter, or a transmission rather, left by a federal pilot who thinks that she pretty much signed her own resignation for the presidency, and I don't disagree in that matter in the coming days.
Well, it's been discussed in the past, Chip, that Halsey steps down, and Shadow President Hudson has been very vocal about the fact that he's not happy with her policies and with the way she conducts herself. Mm-hmm. So this is surely going to be another nail in the coffin for Halsey. She's not showing any signs of stepping down at the moment, but could this be the end?
For her, I have a feeling she had a really heavy-handed approach on lots of things recently. Since the new year, we had the Onion Head problem, Iran, and I believe there was an issue there as well, and Lugh here. She's overreacting on a lot of fronts, I think, and I don't think it's necessary the way she's pushing huge amounts of resources and soldiers into conflict zones to end such petty squabbles, I think. I really do think that she's not going to be president in the very, very near future.
Well, as we mentioned there, nothing decided yet, no official word from Congress, but the recent popularity polls have indicated that she has a 26% approval rating, and that has to be the lowest of any presidential reign that I can remember. How about you?
I agree as well. I mean, it could be a lot worse. I do enjoy the fact that she is pumping out large capital ships just in case. It's helpful for our forces, but she's putting them into bad use. So 26% seems appropriate for her, and unfortunately very low. So I won't be surprised that she's going to be forcibly stepping down.
Well, that's 1 in 4 members of the Federation who are in this poll who still support Halsey. If you were one of those people who still supported her, what would you be saying in this situation?
Well, actually, the quote that Shadow President Hudson gave to her, that the victory in Lugh was given to her on a silver platter and she murders her own people, I would pretty much mention that on top of everything else, that she's not keeping the Federation's interest at heart. Frankly, I'm not exactly sure as to what she's planning or what her thoughts are on the matter, or frankly, why she's so gung-ho and heavy-handed in her decisions on attacking small uprisings, even a small drug trade. It could be a lot worse. It could be space heroin for all we know, because Onion Head is just, you eat it, and it's very psychedelic, or so I hear.
Every day, apparently.
Yes.
So the subject you're mentioning there is the late night session held in Congress, in which Shadow President Hudson had those harsh words. It was a hotly debated session, and President Halsey came in for criticism over Onion Head, as we've mentioned, obviously the civilian killings in Lugh, and the bombing of Panem.
Yes.
But could the bombing of Panem be handled in a different way, and could the conflict in Lugh have been handled in a different way?
Well, the Panem issue, definitely. The checkpoints that they had set up was a smart idea. They could have stopped traders and confiscated the drug, but turning the surface of Panem to glass is a little difficult to imagine being able to justify that just because she doesn't like the drug. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people enjoy it and don't seem to have much of a problem with it. I mean, I know I've read up on the research that it causes, unfortunately, some severe brain hemorrhaging and cancer of sorts, but I don't think she should have glassed the surface of Panem just because of it. Even if there were very few casualties on planet side, I think it was a little difficult because glassing the surface is going to be very hard to plant crops of any kind there, I'm pretty sure. And as for Lugh, I have to say, I need to really get in touch with more details about that, but I still think that the cost of all the lives and the monetary cost for the Federation was really, really high, especially with all the heated emotions going through certain parties, even mercenary groups, and operations like Operation Arm Chop, where they are pretty much trying to keep the FNS Nevermore from going to Lugh. And I have a feeling that them trying to stop it is trying to make Halsey push it even harder to go out there to Lugh and do even worse things, maybe just in spite of people. And I think it's a little over the top. I know that there's been some talks of a peace treaty between the Lugh for Equality Party and the Crimson State Group, which is I'm very thankful for, and less bloodshed now. But I think the Federation is coming out limping from this fight, unfortunately.
Well, let's come back to the subject of the Nevermore in just a moment. Mm-hmm. Going back to the Onion Head situation, just for a moment there are a huge number of illicit substances all over the galaxy, some very harmful, some slightly harmful, some would argue some even good for you. But there was an ancient 20th century effect known as the Barbara Streisand effect. Are you familiar with this?
No, I'm not. Please elaborate.
So it relates to the fact that by bringing attention to something in a negative light and trying to stop information or trying to stop the spread of something, you actually make the situation worse. And a lot of people that would otherwise not have really cared about Onion Head are now trying to get hold of it purely because it's the must-have substance and it's banned in the Federation. How do you think that has played out?
That is a very good point. I mean, there's no such thing as bad publicity, so even putting Onion Head in a horrid, evil light, it's putting it in some light, and I've never heard of Onion Head, frankly, before this entire Panem issue with the Federation. But I think it's playing out exactly as you said. I would have never even cared for it. I would have never even been to a Kappa Fernassus if it wasn't for the fact that there was a conflict there and I joined in the fight at some point. But she is making it worse for herself, frankly. I think the best thing to do for her is to bring some money away from that fight into somewhere where it's more useful, not holding down a drug trade, which isn't really all too bad as it is, but she's just making it such a lucrative business for the onion head, plantation owners and even traders. I'm not sure if this is going to play out to her at some point where it's some sort of conspiracy where she wanted to do this, but I kind of doubt it because she's the result of, she resulted in a lot of killing a lot of people on Panem and around it. So she's digging herself a hole, if you will.
Well, speaking of other holes, let's go back to the issue of Hudson Dock and the battle between it and FNS Nevermore.
Indeed.
Which was reported earlier this week when the ship was launched and the targeting systems accidentally fired on Hudson Dock, which then returned fire, understandably, causing a large amount of damage to both structures. Now, is this just another example of President Halsey's eagerness to get everything done in a hurry, or is there something more sinister at work here?
I'm not sure about anything being sinister, but unfortunately, when dealing with such a large thing of approximately, 2 kilometers long, I believe, with so many weapons on it, that taking all precautions and safety measures is extremely important, because in the end, if they didn't get it under control, the station and the Nevermore probably would have annihilated each other in space and would have caused a lot of debris there. But she is pushing it a little quick, but I do have to hand it to the pilots who were able to gather enough materials in such a quick manner to allow for the building of the Nevermore in such a quick pace. So kudos to them, but shame on President Halsey trying to push it so quickly without taking the proper precautions of safety. It could have been a lot worse. But it could have been avoided altogether as it is.
And the Nevermore is a Farragut-class battlecruiser manufactured by Core Dynamics with a crew of 7,000, ideally, once it's once it's operational. But the question is, how does this reflect on Core Dynamics and their public opinion?
Well, I like Core Dynamics ships, though. Granted, no offense, Core Dynamics, but their ships are extremely ugly. God, have you seen the Vulture?
Yes, unfortunately, and my eyes will never be the same.
And the Federal dropship, it's like a dolphin with some sort of mental disorder.
Well, I think that's unfair to dolphins.
I agree. Well, it's a giant steel dolphin, but although that being the case, I'm pretty sure they know a good deal about how ships work, because despite the ugliness of the Vulture, it works like a charm. It's spectacular on all fronts. The Federal dropship, though it handles like a brick if it was in the atmosphere, it still has smart positioning of its hardpoints, which is, for a dropship, for a military vessel, is quite important, especially being able to fight. And even the Eagle, I believe that is a Core Dynamic ship as well. It is one of the best maneuvering ships available to pilots and commanders these days, and I think it's a pretty good vessel as it is. So I'm pretty sure if they were given the proper time, they would have made the Nevermore better than anyone could even imagine. But sometimes pushing certain limitations on deadlines, it's tough. I'm pretty sure they were forced to cut a few corners in their programming that unfortunately led to this issue.
And does the FNS Nevermore matter now that we've heard that there will be a temporary peace, at least, in Lugh?
I think it matters to the Federal Navy in general, despite its issues. I know they're going to get fixed up and it's going to be a perfectly fine ship, but for Lugh, I hope it doesn't matter anymore. I hope she doesn't turn around and put every ship in the Federation on Lugh. That would be very unwise, because then the Empire would have absolutely free reign on all federal systems to grab, and there might be an all-out war just because of it. But hopefully she doesn't do anything with Lugh anymore, lets them go. It's one less system, sure, but she needs to focus on everything else. As for the Nevermore, it's another ship for the Federal Navy, and I think that's extremely important, because bolstering power is also important. It's being able to spread out the military throughout the federal systems, and being able to protect themselves on any front possible, or focus better on any front possible. So again, for Lugh, I don't think the Nevermore should matter anymore, but as a brand new ship for the Federation, I think it's a great addition.
So what about Cormac Illyri then, who is a relative of Aemon Illyri, who is known for his diplomatic skills, but Cormac seems to have come out of nowhere and been the hero of the day for the Crimson State Group, who have now successfully defended Reed Gateway.
Oh yeah, so he did it, he was there in the battle himself, right?
Yes, several days of fierce fighting is what the reports are saying, and it's been pegged as a Federation failure. But you know, the Crimson State Group needed a figurehead like this, surely.
Well, in any kind of battle, morale is very important, and having a well-known and looked up to leader or person is extremely important for morale. And even with low amount of troops, morale is just as good as another 10-20 men. You know, it's I think he helped them push through and defend Reed Gateway, and I have to give him kudos for being in the fight himself, because losing, a figurehead just like that would, on the other hand, kill morale, and would have probably lost Reed Gateway for them. So I think that was an interesting fight on that front.
And now, with the defection of many of the Federation forces and the Crimson State's sudden gain in popularity and power, the Federal Navy has fallen back on Kakar, the Kakar system, and temporary ceasefire has been established. Is that going to last?
Well, like I said before about the Nevermore, I hope it does. I hope she disperses the Federal Navy from around Kakar and just relaxes herself. She needs to go take a bath or a spa treatment, something, because she's just a little over the top. So I hope it really does last. I hope the Lugh Equality Party and the Crimson State Group find a middle ground, maybe splitting the system into an independent and a federal system, depending on which planets and stations. I think that would be the wisest decision. Keep everybody happy. They can still trade amongst each other, and the people who want to be independent could stay independent. The people who want to stay in the Federation could stay, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people still do want to be part of the Federation, and I hope President Halsey doesn't make it any worse by coming back there and getting the Nevermore up and running, and just completely turning all the habitable planets of Lugh into marbles with no life on them.
Well, maybe she needs some Pantar prayer sticks. I've heard they're pretty relaxing.
Maybe she needs some onion head.
Well, that's another different type of solution, perhaps. But that's the week's news in roundup form. Thank you very much, Chip.
Thank you, Chris. Now, after such a vivid and insightful chat with my good correspondent, Chris, I think we should wind down with a chat about some vessels to take you to the stars and beyond, to the gorgeous sights of this, our Milky Way galaxy. I'd like to welcome you to a segment I like to call Top Clutch. Thanks to the recent economic demand for more research data on non-core stars and planets, exploration turns out to be quite a lucrative, albeit generally lonely business model for people to make an honest buck. And with 400 billion star systems in our galaxy, I'm certain that the lack of research to be gained from this choice of employment is near non-existent, at least not anytime soon. Today, I'll be discussing an extremely simple and cheap way to get started on your journey of the void with the Zorgen-Peterson Adder. Now, I understand that there are better ships to be exploring with, obviously, but I'm trying to focus on something that's a little more accessible for, the lower class, or rather not lower class, but not as wealthy pilots and commanders out there in the void. Because everybody needs to start somewhere, and I think exploration is quite a beautiful and rewarding experience, monetarily and in beauty as well. Now, first and foremost, although the Zorgen-Peterson Hauler and Adder are mainly freighters, they do make for decent exploratory vehicles. But for the sake of keeping this discussion detailed about one ship, I will ignore the Hauler this time around. As well, if you want more bang for your buck, the Adder can fit to be a multi-role ship, even being a somewhat capable fighter in its own right, especially when equipped properly. So when you're done collecting data, you can refit it for another purpose if you're not willing to leave this stubby wing beauty just yet. As well, despite the Hauler's marginally superior jump range, the Adder has a larger fuel tank, meaning less downtime between jumps, and better yet, less stress worrying about the nearest fuel scoop-friendly star. And I think, most importantly of all, the Adder is a much smoother and more comfortable ride, isn't it, listeners? Before we continue, to my aimless listeners out there, only O, B, A, F, G, K, and M-class stars are viable fuel scooping options, and if you can't remember that, I had a problem, frankly. Just follow this handy limerick, going from the most to most luminous to least. Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me. Now, on to the top clutch. For the purposes of this topic, we will adhere to these simple rules for making the best Explorer that we can. Besides the frameshift drive, which must be at grade A for obvious reasons, and the default fuel tank, we're going to keep the ship as light as possible, meaning we will remove all weapons, utilities, shields, keeping the lightest armor and having all other internal components as grade D, as they are the lightest in their class. For a decent career, an Explorer will need a detailed surface scanner and an advanced discovery scanner. If you think you are skilled enough in picking out stars 10,000 to 350,000 light seconds away, by all means, save yourself 1,000,000 credits and get the intermediate discovery scanner instead, though I advise against it. To save time, we will get the largest class fuel scoop within your budget, and if you're going to be out in the void for days at a time, you might want to pick up an auto-field maintenance unit. In the end, you may, if you wish, downgrade some of your internal components to a lower class if you wish to save a few credits, which will be marginal, I can almost guarantee that. But so long as they can still power and move your ship in supercruise, you should be alright, as for the most part, you will not be in impulse flight when exploring. But now on with the details. The Adder was originally a general utility vessel originally built in 2914 by Outworld Workshops. That's probably why it's such a decent multi-role craft as it is. Obviously now it's manufactured by Zorgen-Peterson, and has the most cargo capacity for a ship in its price range. As well, it's probably one of the more comfortable and stylish ships as it's sometimes seen doing shuttle runs. Now, purchasing a nice stock Adder will run you about 88,000 credits, and if we get rid of the two pulse lasers, the basic discovery scanner, the shield generator, and the Class 1 cargo hold, we can save about 12,000 credits. Good deal. I personally would keep the Class 2 cargo hold for fun. It doesn't weigh anything, and there might be a time you may run into a strange sight in your journey, and it might have some reward. I, for one, ran into a destroyed Lacon Type 6 in orbit between a black hole and a Class O star, carrying military intelligence, and it was over 500 light-years away from the core worlds. But I digress. From here on out, the cost I mentioned will assume that you've sold the modules previously mentioned before. Now, if we purchase all D-grade internal modules, the total cost of our ship would be around 110,000 credits, which honestly isn't so bad and affordable for everybody, in my opinion, and it's usually a decent upgrade from the Class E components that it comes with. And unfortunately, with the hefty purchase price of about 5 times that, at 500,000 credits, we can equip a Grade A frameshift drive. Now, for the important bits, if we spend a hefty 1.5 million credits, we can purchase the Advanced Discovery Scanner. As I said before, if you think you can, by all means buy the intermediate Discovery Scanner, which is compared to the Advanced Discovery Scanner a paltry 500,000 credits. But either way, on any ship cheaper than a Lakon Type 6, the Advanced Discovery Scanner will be either the most expensive or one of the most expensive parts on your exploration vehicle. But with that, currently, our ship is worth about 2.4 million credits. That 90,000 credit adder is turning out to be a real hyperspace beast, guys and gals. Now, out there in the void, there are no stations to refuel at, so let's grab a Class 3 fuel scoop. If you're really rolling in the dough, go for it, get yourself a Grade A fuel scoop at 900,000 credits. Hell, even the Grade B fuel scoop is kind of expensive at 225. Frankly, for the value to performance ratio, I find that the Grade C fuel scoop will get the job done in a perfectly timely fashion for our exploration needs. Why not save a few credits? That's a mere 56,000 credits compared to the higher end options, and the difference between refueling an entire tank with a Grade B and Grade C fuel scoop is a negligible 11 seconds. And lastly, it's optional, but it could save your skin in a pinch, and it doesn't really cost all that much. A Class 3 autofield maintenance unit, if you can afford it, at Grade A, is 2.6 million credits. I don't think you should be wasting your time kitting out an adder, friend, if you can afford that. But a Grade D or C module will do the trick to save your skin, respectively. They cost 291,000 and 97,000 for the Grade C, with 72% and 51% repair capacity. So, you make the choice, but remember you can always sell them back when you're done with your voyage, but good precaution saves lives. In this case, let's save some money and get the Grade D module. In total, my dear listeners, a Zorgan Peterson adder with the lightest components possible and unladen can reach jumps of up to 26 light years and up to 29 at low fuel levels, and cost a total of 2.56 million credits after all is said and done. You can even give the bigger exploration ships a run for their money. As of right now, I'm piloting a Lakon Spaceways ASP with a similar build here with the Advanced Discovery Scanner, a Detail Surface Scanner, all the lightest components, Grade A FSD, and Grade, I think, C fuel scoop and maintenance unit. I don't remember which class. I believe the fuel scoop is class 6 or 5, and so is the field maintenance unit. I believe it is class 5. But in either case, that runs me about 15.5 million credits. And with that thing, I only jump about 32 to 35 light years at low fuel levels. So 26 light years to 29 at low fuel levels for 2.5 million credits is a steal, I think. And if something were to happen to you in your travels, the insurance deductible of the ship would only be 128,000 credits with the Galactic Standard Insurance Package. Again, if you wish, you can play around with the lower class internal components to squeeze out a light year or two out of your jumps. But the prices and jump distances are honestly negligible, without making your ship completely useless. But in either case, I hope you've enjoyed listening to my special of Top Clutch. Safe travels, see you all in the void, and if you have any questions for us to answer next time, please leave us a comment. This has been Chip Washington, Galaxy Tonight, keeping your galaxy in focus.